Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into something you might think of as purely luxurious and pleasant perfume. Imagine strolling through an ancient marketplace, the air thick with exotic scents, frankincense, myrrh, blooming jasmine. Sounds lovely, right? Well, hold on a second. What if I told you some of those captivating aromas came from, well, let's just say ingredients that would make your stomach churn today? We're not talking about your run-of-the-mill floral extracts here. Think more along the lines of things you'd probably run screaming from. Seriously, a time machine trip back then for a sniff test, you'd have a survival rate roughly equivalent to a snowball in July. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always cool to see where in the world these stories are reaching. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported to a bustling city of antiquity, perhaps the sun-drenched streets of ancient Egypt, the vibrant marketplaces of Mesopotamia, or even the burgeoning urban centers of early Greece. The air, as hinted before, is a complex tapestry of smells. There are the obvious natural fragrances, the sweet perfume of date palms swaying in the breeze, the earthy aroma of freshly baked bread, the sharp tang of spices piled high on merchant stalls. But threading through these familiar scents is something else, something richer, more intense, and, as you'll soon discover, often derived from surprisingly disturbing sources. The desire for pleasant smells is nothing new. From the earliest human civilizations, there's evidence of attempts to manipulate natural aromas, to create something that would please the senses, attract attention, or even hold symbolic and religious significance. Think about it even today. Scent plays a huge role in our lives. It can evoke memories, influence moods, and even shape our perceptions of others. Now amplify that. Place it in a world with far fewer readily available luxuries, and you can begin to understand the value placed on fragrant substances in the ancient world. But the journey to these coveted scents was often fraught with challenges, and the ingredients themselves could be quite unsettling by modern standards. You see, early perfumers didn't have access to the vast array of synthetic chemicals we do today. They had to rely entirely on what nature provided, and sometimes nature's offerings were a bit extreme. They experimented with everything they could get their hands on: plants, animals, minerals, often without a full understanding of the potential consequences. Imagine you are an apprentice perfumer in ancient Alexandria. Your day begins before dawn, navigating narrow, winding streets towards the workshop. The air is thick with the smells of the city, the Nile River, livestock, cooking fires, a stark contrast to the delicate fragrances you are striving to create. Your master, a stern figure with a lifetime of scent secrets etched into his face, tasks you with grinding a particularly pungent resin. As you work, the sharp, almost fecal aroma fills the air. This, you are told, is essential for the base note of a highly prized perfume destined for the pharaoh himself. You wrinkle your nose, but you continue your task. This unsettling smell, you learn, will somehow transform into a rich, long-lasting fragrance. This is just a glimpse into the reality of ancient perfumery. The pursuit of alluring scents often led down some rather dark and bizarre paths. The ingredients they used, the methods they employed, and even the reasons behind their fragrant concoctions can seem quite disturbing to our modern sensibilities. So, prepare yourself as we delve deeper into this fragrant but often unsettling history. You might just find that your favorite modern perfume has echoes of a much stranger past than you ever imagined. You see evidence of this early experimentation in archaeological finds and ancient texts. Egyptian tombs, for example, have yielded vessels containing traces of perfumes that, when analyzed, reveal surprising components. Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets detail recipes for incense and fragrant oils that include substances we would likely consider repulsive today. The ancient Greeks and Romans, too, left behind accounts of their perfuming practices, often mentioning ingredients that hint at a less than pleasant origin. One popular ingredient across many ancient cultures was musk. Now, modern musk is largely synthetic, but in ancient times, it was derived from the glandular secretions of the musk deer. Picture the process hunters would have to locate and kill these elusive animals to extract the prized musk pod. The scent itself, in its raw form, is quite strong and fecal. It's hard to imagine this being desirable, yet in small quantities, it possesses a remarkable ability to add a warm, animalic depth to fragrances. You might even find similar notes in some high-end perfumes today, though they are almost certainly synthetic recreations. The thought of the original source, however, might make you think twice about that sensual undertone. The lengths to which ancient perfumers went to obtain and utilize these ingredients highlight the immense value placed on fragrance. It wasn't just about smelling good. It was often tied to religious rituals, social status, and even perceived medicinal properties. The disturbing nature of some of these ingredients underscores a fundamental truth about human history. Our desires, whether for beauty, status, or something else entirely, can sometimes lead us down some rather peculiar and, yes, disturbing paths. As we continue our journey, you'll encounter even more examples of this, from the bizarre uses of animal products to the incorporation of potentially toxic plants. So, brace yourself. The world of ancient perfumes is far more complex and, at times, unsettling than you might think. It's important to remember the context of the time. Scientific understanding was limited, and experimentation was often based on trial and error, observation, and sometimes simply superstition. If a particular substance seemed to impart a desirable scent or had a perceived effect, its origin or the process of obtaining it might have been secondary. This is not to excuse the use of potentially harmful or cruel practices, but rather to understand the historical framework in which these things occurred. Consider the sheer effort involved in procuring some of these rare and exotic ingredients. Trade routes stretched across vast distances, bringing fragrant materials from faraway lands. This not only made these ingredients incredibly expensive, but also imbued them with an aura of mystique and value. The more difficult or unusual the source, the more prized the resulting perfume might have been. In a world where personal hygiene practices were often rudimentary by modern standards, strong, long-lasting perfumes also served a practical purpose in masking less desirable body odors. As you delve deeper into the history of ancient perfumes, you'll begin to appreciate the ingenuity and resourcefulness of these early scent artisans. They were working with the materials available to them, often without the sophisticated extraction and purification techniques we have today. Their understanding of chemistry and biology was limited, yet they managed to create complex and often captivating fragrances that were highly valued in their societies. However, this ingenuity often came hand in hand with the use of ingredients that we would now find not only disturbing but also potentially harmful or unethical. The story of ancient perfumes is a testament to humanity's enduring fascination with scent, but it's also a reminder of how different our world and our understanding of it are from those of the civilizations that came before us. The next time you reach for your favorite fragrance, take a moment to consider the long and often strange journey of perfume history, a journey that began with some truly unsettling ingredients. You're still wandering the ancient world, perhaps the scent of sun-baked earth and distant fires in your nostrils. But now you're also acutely aware of a different kind of aroma. It's an underlying current in the very air, a deep, sometimes unsettling note that hints at life itself in its rawest, most animalistic form. Because while plants offered a bounty of beautiful smells, ancient perfumers weren't content to limit themselves to the botanical realm. Oh no, they looked to the animal kingdom, convinced that within its wild heart lay the secret to truly captivating and long-lasting fragrances. And let me tell you, their methods for extracting these gifts were often anything but gentle. Imagine, if you will, the sheer determination. You're not just picking flowers here. You're engaging with creatures that are, shall we say, less than thrilled about donating their bodily essences to your cause. This wasn't a quaint farm-to-table operation. It was often a hunter-gatherer pursuit of truly bizarre and highly potent substances. Take musk, for instance. You might recognize the name from countless modern colognes and perfumes, often described as warm, sensual, or woody, but the original source, that would be the musk deer, not exactly a cuddly companion. These small, solitary deer, native to mountainous regions of Asia, possess a special gland, typically found in the males, that produces a secretion known as musk. In its raw form, directly from the deer, this musk is incredibly powerful, even overwhelmingly fecal. It's not the kind of smell you'd want wafting through your living room. Yet, ancient perfumers learned that when diluted and carefully blended, this potent substance transformed. It became something warm, earthy, almost sweet, with incredible fixative properties, meaning it helped other, more volatile scents last longer on the skin. The process of obtaining musk was, to put it mildly, brutal. It involved hunting and killing the deer to extract the musk pod. For centuries, this practice continued, driving many species of musk deer to the brink of extinction. The demand was so high, not just for perfume, but also for its perceived medicinal qualities. Ancient texts speak of musk being used as an aphrodisiac, a stimulant, and even a remedy for various ailments. Think about it, a substance so valuable. People were willing to scale mountains and endure harsh conditions just to get their hands on it. You know, for all the talk about natural ingredients these days, ancient perfumers really took that to heart. Perhaps a little too much to heart, if we're being honest. Next, let's talk about civet. If musk deer are elusive, civet cats are, well, let's just say they have a particular reputation. The civet, a small, nocturnal mammal native to parts of Asia and Africa, also possesses perineal glands that produce a strong, buttery, often fecal-smelling secretion. Similar to musk, this substance, when highly diluted, contributes a rich, warm, and distinctly animalic note to perfumes. It adds depth, a certain je ne sais quoi, that can make a fragrance truly captivating. But again, the collection method was far from pleasant. Imagine the scene. Civets were often kept in small, confined cages, and the civet paste would be scraped from their glands, usually once a week. The animals were, understandably, stressed and agitated by this process. You can almost smell the fear and musk combined in the air. The resulting product was incredibly valuable, especially in perfumery for the wealthy elites of ancient Rome or the sophisticated courts of the Middle East. It lent an exotic, almost wild dimension to personal fragrance, a clear sign of status and opulence. It's a reminder that what we perceive as luxury often has a hidden, and sometimes unsettling, backstory. Then there's castoreum. This one might surprise you even more, if that's possible. Castoreum comes from the castor sacs of beavers, Yes, beavers. These sacs are located near the base of the tail, between the pelvis and the base of the tail, and contain a yellowish, oily substance that beavers use to mark their territory. For ancient perfumers, it was a gold mine. The scent profile of castoreum is complex, leathery, animalic, slightly tarry, and surprisingly, with a hint of vanilla-like sweetness when highly diluted. This unique combination made it highly sought after as a fixative and an enhancer in perfumes. The beavers, of course, weren't lining up to donate their castoreum. Like the musk deer, they had to be hunted. The image of trappers pursuing beavers for their scent glands adds another layer to the rather disturbing pursuit of ancient fragrances. Fun fact, even today, a small amount of castoreum is sometimes used in the food industry as a flavoring agent, particularly for vanilla, raspberry, and strawberry notes. So next time you're enjoying a natural flavor, maybe don't think too hard about where some of those unique undertones might come from. It's a bit of a laugh, isn't it? If you thought getting your pet to take a bath was hard, imagine trying to get a beaver to voluntarily donate its secretions. Now let's dive into an even more obscure, yet equally fascinating, animal-derived ingredient, hyraceum. Ever heard of a rock hyrax? They look a bit like large, fluffy guinea pigs, but they're actually more closely related to elephants than rodents. These small, unassuming mammals live in rocky outcrops in Africa and the Middle East, and their contribution to ancient perfumery, their petrified urine and feces. Yes, you heard that right. Over hundreds or even thousands of years, these excretions accumulate in specific spots, drying and hardening into a substance that looks like dark, resinous rocks. This rock-like material is then collected, ground into a powder, and used in perfumery. The scent of hyraceum is incredibly complex, described as musky, animalic, slightly smoky, and even urinous, but with warm, sensual undertones when properly processed. It acts as a powerful fixative and adds a unique animalic depth, somewhat similar to civet, but with its own distinct character. The fact that ancient perfumers discovered this specific use for such an unusual byproduct of a small mammal's bodily functions truly highlights their relentless experimentation and their willingness to look in every possible corner of the natural world for their prized ingredients. This is definitely one of those lesser-known details that makes you pause and think, how on earth did they even discover that? It's a testament to ancient curiosity, or perhaps ancient desperation for new, potent scents. Historians still debate the exact prevalence and social accessibility of these animal-derived perfumes across different ancient civilizations. While we have ample evidence of their use by elites in Egypt, Rome, and the Middle East, it's less clear how widely they were incorporated into the daily lives of the common populace. Were these truly exclusive luxuries, or did diluted, less potent versions find their way into broader circulation? The answer likely varies greatly depending on the time period and specific culture we're examining. What is clear, however, is that the demand for these animalic notes fueled a significant industry, leading to extensive trade routes and, unfortunately, often unsustainable practices. You might recall our earlier discussion about the crocodile dung sunscreen. These animal products were often seen as potent, almost magical substances, whether for beauty or medicine. The line between these applications was often blurred. Ancient beliefs frequently attributed special powers to animal parts or secretions, believing they could transfer qualities like strength, virility, or allure to the wearer. So, while we might cringe at the thought of civet paste or dried hyrax urine for ancient peoples, these ingredients were not just components of a pleasant smell, but powerful elixirs imbued with deep symbolic meaning. The extraction and processing of these animal ingredients also varied. Some might have been simple drying and grinding, while others involved more complex tinctures or infusions in oils and fats. Imagine the smells permeating the workshops of these ancient perfumers, not just the sweet aroma of flowers, but the pungent, often stomach-turning odors of animal glands, dried feces, and musky secretions. It was a far cry from the sterile, pleasant-smelling laboratories of modern perfumeries. It really makes you appreciate the air fresheners of today, doesn't it? The continued use of these animal notes, even in modern synthetic forms, speaks volumes about their enduring appeal. There's something primal, something deeply resonant in these animalic scents that appeals to our most basic instincts. They add a warmth, a sensuality, and a complexity that is difficult to replicate with purely synthetic molecules. Even today, master perfumers speak of the animalic accord as a crucial element in certain high-end fragrances, even if the actual ingredients are now safely synthesized in a lab. So, the next time you encounter a perfume described as musky or animalic, take a moment to reflect on its long and often disturbing lineage. From the desperate hunts for musk deer to the caged civets, and even the collection of petrified hyrax droppings, the quest for beautiful scents has driven humanity to some truly extraordinary and sometimes unsettling lengths. These ingredients, once raw and potent, were carefully transformed, diluted, and blended to create the alluring perfumes that grace the bodies of queens, emperors, and high priests. They are a testament to human ingenuity, our unyielding desire for beauty, and the often uncomfortable truth about how that beauty was once achieved. The animal kingdom, it turns out, provided a powerful, if sometimes grim palette for the perfumers of antiquity. You've explored the terrestrial beasts, the ones that roamed the land and unwillingly contributed their potent secretions to the ancient perfumer's palette. But now, as you stand on the sun-drenched shores of the ancient world, a different scent drifts on the breeze, one carried by the vast, mysterious ocean itself. The sea, a boundless source of life and wonder, also held its own disturbing secrets for the creation of intoxicating fragrances. And chief among these, a substance so bizarre in its origin, so incredibly valuable in its perfected form, that it was quite literally known as floating gold ambergris. Imagine this scene: you're a humble beachcomber, perhaps in ancient Egypt or along the coast of Yemen. You're scanning the tide lines, hoping to find some useful flotsam or jetsam. Then, something peculiar catches your eye. It's a lump, perhaps dark and waxy, with a strangely unpleasant, almost fecal or marine odor. Your instinct might be to recoil, to avoid this oddity. But for those in the know, for those who understood the ocean's hidden treasures, this lump was a beacon of immense wealth and aromatic potential, because ambergris, in its rawest state, fresh from its original source, is not particularly appealing. Its origin, for centuries, was shrouded in mystery and superstition. Ancient peoples had no idea where it truly came from. Some thought it was petrified sea foam. Others believed it was the hardened droppings of mythical seabirds, or even a form of seabed asphalt. You can almost hear the theories being tossed around in crowded taverns. Right, it's dragon drool. I tell you, nonsense, it's sea monster wax. The truth, however, is far more digestive. Ambergris is, in fact, a rare and precious substance created in the digestive system of the sperm whale. It's believed to be a pathological excretion formed to protect the whale's intestines from the sharp beaks of giant squid, a favorite meal of these massive creatures. The whale either expels it, or it's released after the whale dies. Once it enters the ocean, the magic, or perhaps the disturbing transformation, begins. Fresh ambergris is often soft, black, and indeed has a very strong, unpleasant fecal and marine odor. If you stumbled upon it right after it was expelled, you'd probably hold your nose and back away slowly. But here's where the centuries of oceanic tumbling work their wonders. As it floats on the ocean currents, battered by waves, exposed to sunlight, salt water, and air, the ambergris undergoes a remarkable aging process. Over years, sometimes decades, it changes. It becomes lighter in color, turning gray, silver, or even whitish. Its texture hardens and becomes waxy, almost stone-like. And most importantly for our story, its smell transforms entirely. The repulsive initial odor gradually fades, replaced by something truly magnificent, a complex aroma that is sweet, earthy, musky, marine, and subtly fecal all at once. It has a uniquely warm, radiant quality that adds incredible depth and longevity to perfumes. It's often described as smelling like the ocean at sunset, or perhaps a warm, salty skin scent. Imagine trying to explain to your ancient boss that you couldn't find the whale vomit, but it's essential for the pharaoh's bath oil. They'd probably insist, completely oblivious to its true origins. This transformation, from something literally expelled by a whale to one of the most coveted fragrant substances in history, is nothing short of astonishing. Ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians who burned it as incense to the Arabs who used it extensively in perfumes and medicines, were utterly fascinated by ambergris. The Islamic world, in particular, prized it highly, incorporating it into their most luxurious perfumes and even believing it had aphrodisiac properties. It was, after all, a gift from the sea, a mysterious offering from the depths. The trade routes for ambergris stretched across continents, making it a truly global commodity. Finding a large lump of ambergris could make a family rich for generations. So, next time you're at the beach and see something weird washed up, maybe don't immediately poke it with your bare foot unless you're hoping to strike liquid gold and are prepared for a potential stomach churner. The sheer rarity of ambergris made it extraordinarily valuable. Unlike plant materials that could be cultivated or animal products that could be harvested, albeit often cruelly, ambergris was purely a matter of chance. It was found, not actively sought. You couldn't simply go whaling for ambergris in the ancient world. You relied on serendipity and the unpredictable currents of the ocean. This element of luck, combined with its unique transformative properties, cemented its status as a truly legendary ingredient. Scholars still debate the full extent of ambergris's use in daily life versus purely ceremonial or elite contexts across different periods. While its high value undoubtedly restricted its use to the very wealthy and powerful pharaohs, emperors, caliphs, there's evidence suggesting its presence, even in small quantities, might have trickled down to certain rituals or special occasions for others. The exact chemical processes that lead to ambergris's transformation are still a subject of scientific inquiry, hinting at mysteries even modern science grapples with. It's a prime example of nature's complex chemistry, turning something initially off-putting into a substance of incredible aromatic beauty. Beyond ambergris, the ocean's contribution to ancient fragrance was more subtle but still present. While there weren't other disturbing marine animal secretions used as direct fragrance compounds, the ocean provided other critical elements. Seaweed, for instance, in various forms, was sometimes used as a fixative, helping to anchor more volatile scents. You might not think of seaweed as a perfume ingredient, but its earthy, briny aroma could, in small doses, add a subtle marine nuance or simply help to bind other scents together. However, it was truly the enigmatic ambergris that stood out as the undisputed king of marine-derived perfumery ingredients. The fascination with the sea and its bounty was a constant theme in ancient cultures. From the abundant fishing grounds that sustained communities to the mythical creatures believed to dwell in its depths, the ocean was both a provider and a source of awe. It's no surprise, then, that ancient perfumers would look to this vast, unknowable realm for new and powerful aromatic materials. The fact that their most prized marine discovery was essentially a byproduct of a whale's digestion is just another layer in the wonderfully weird tapestry of ancient scent-making. You thought your weird uncle had a funky smell. At least it wasn't a coveted perfume ingredient, right? The mystique surrounding ambergris continued well into more recent history. Even as whaling became an industry, the finding of ambergris remained a stroke of immense luck, as it only forms in a small percentage of sperm whales. The true nature of its formation wasn't fully understood until relatively recently. For centuries, its appearance on a beach was nothing short of a miracle, a gift from the deep, to be valued above almost any other natural product. So, as you drift off, picture the ancient seas, not just as a source of food and travel, but as a vast, unpredictable laboratory, a place where giant creatures roamed, and within their very bodies, a substance was created, expelled, and then, by the slow, relentless work of waves and sun, transformed from a foul, waxy lump into a jewel of perfumery. This journey, from the depths of a whale's gut to the elegant anointing oils of kings, encapsulates the strange, often disturbing, and utterly fascinating world of ancient perfume. It's a powerful reminder that beauty, in its most ancient forms, often had its roots in the most unexpected and, by modern standards, unappetizing places. You've journeyed through the unsettling world of animal secretions, and even delved into the digestive system of a whale, all in the name of ancient perfume. Now, let's pivot. When you think of botanical ingredients in perfume, your mind likely conjures images of delicate rose petals, sweet jasmine blossoms, or refreshing citrus peels, and indeed, ancient perfumers used these in abundance. But just as the animal kingdom held its disturbing secrets, so too did the seemingly innocuous world of plants. For some of the most alluring fragrances of antiquity were derived from flora with a decidedly darker side, plants whose beauty belied a potent, often perilous power. This is where the line between perfume, medicine, and outright poison became incredibly, disturbingly blurred. Imagine you are in a bustling ancient apothecary, the air thick with a cacophony of smells. Herbs hang drying from the rafters, spices are ground on stone mortars, and exotic resins simmer in small pots, but tucked away in a shadowed corner, perhaps behind a locked cabinet. You might spot jars filled with dried roots, curious leaves, or vibrant berries that, while perhaps fragrant, carried a silent, deadly warning. These weren't just ingredients. They were components of potent potions, their aromatic qualities often inseparable from their intoxicating or even fatal effects. Let's start with one of the most legendary and unsettling plants in ancient lore, the mandrake. You've likely heard tales of its human-like root, its agonizing scream when pulled from the earth, and its association with witchcraft and magic. But beyond the folklore, mandrake was a very real and very dangerous botanical. Its roots, when dried and powdered, have a distinct, somewhat earthy and musky aroma, often described as narcotic or narcotic sweet. Ancient perfumers and potion makers were fascinated by its scent, but even more so by its powerful properties. Mandrake contains potent alkaloids like atropine, scopolamine, and hyoscyamine, the very same compounds found in modern pharmaceuticals used as sedatives and pain relievers. In the ancient world, these compounds meant mandrake was a powerful narcotic and hallucinogen. It was used as an anesthetic during surgery. Imagine, You're about to have a limb amputated, and they offer you a sniff of mandrake-infused oil to ease your pain. Talk about a trip. It was also a key ingredient in love potions and sleep-inducing concoctions, blurring the line between desire and unconsciousness. So, if your ancient significant other ever gave you a perfume that made you feel a little too relaxed, you might want to check the ingredients list, or what's left of you. Anyway, for a perfumer, the mandrake's earthy, heavy scent, combined with its profound physiological effects, made it an ingredient of immense, albeit dangerous, value. It could create a perfume that wasn't just pleasing to the nose, but that literally altered the state of mind of the wearer or those around them. It offered an aroma of enchantment, perhaps even an aroma of oblivion. The idea that a fragrant oil could also induce a deep, dreamless sleep, or even vivid hallucinations, adds a truly disturbing dimension to ancient perfumery. Then there's the opium poppy. While most famous for its pain-relieving and euphoric properties derived from its milky latex, the poppy also has a subtle, sweet, somewhat hay-like scent, particularly from its seeds and the dried seed pods. In ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, opium was widely cultivated and used, not just for medicine, but also in incense and aromatic balms. Imagine an unguent, a thick perfumed oil designed to soothe both body and mind, subtly releasing the intoxicating aroma of the poppy as it warmed on the skin. The danger, of course, was ever present. Ancient perfumers and apothecaries would have handled these substances, extracting the resin, crushing the seeds, and infusing them into oils. One miscalculation, one accidental ingestion, and their fragrant creation could turn deadly. It turns out natural isn't always nice, especially when you're talking about ancient plant lore. They didn't have warning labels back then, just a high mortality rate for the taste testers. While not directly used for its fragrance in perfumes, the infamous belladonna, or deadly nightshade, provides another chilling example of how dangerous plants were incorporated into the ancient pursuit of allure. Belladonna berries are deceptively beautiful, glossy, dark, and inviting, but consuming even a few can be fatal. However, ancient Greek and Roman women discovered that diluting belladonna extract and applying it to their eyes would dilate their pupils, giving them a wide-eyed, almost ethereal look that was considered highly attractive. The plant's name, belladonna, literally means beautiful lady in Italian, referencing this cosmetic use. So, while not a direct perfume ingredient, belladonna highlights how other dangerous botanicals were integral to the broader ancient beauty regimen, blurring the lines between scent, cosmetic, and poison. A woman might wear a fragrant oil, perhaps infused with something as innocent as rose, but her alluring gaze might be courtesy of a highly toxic plant. It's a stark reminder that ancient beauty practices often involved taking significant risks, all for the sake of perceived attractiveness. Now let's consider the broader category of intoxicating or poisonous plant resins and saps. Many fragrant resins, like frankincense and myrrh, were highly prized, but others possessed more dubious qualities. Some ancient cultures experimented with the saps of certain euphorbia species, which are highly irritating and toxic. Yet some might have been used in diluted forms for specific ritualistic potions or anointing oils due to their strong, distinctive aromas or perceived psychoactive effects. The knowledge of these plants was often passed down through generations, a closely guarded secret of priests, healers, and, yes, perfumers. A common historical fact is that ancient cultures, lacking modern pharmaceuticals, heavily relied on herbal remedies, often employing plants that we now know to be highly toxic. Their understanding of dosage was rudimentary at best, and many medicines, or potions, were a gamble. The fact that these same potent botanicals found their way into preparations for personal scent or ritualistic use speaks volumes about the intertwined nature of ancient science, spirituality, and vanity. One particularly unique and lesser-known detail about ancient botanical knowledge is the sophistication some cultures achieved in handling highly toxic plants for specific effects. For instance, Datura, also known as Jimson weed or devil's trumpet, has beautiful trumpet-shaped flowers with a powerful, somewhat sweet and heady fragrance. However, like mandrake and belladonna, it contains potent deliriant and hallucinogenic alkaloids. While not a conventional perfume, Datura was used in some ancient spiritual practices and magical potions, where its intoxicating aroma and mind-altering properties were intentionally sought. Imagine a priestess burning Datura-infused incense to induce a trance, the sweet, cloying smoke filling the air, leading participants into a profound, yet dangerous, altered state. This wasn't about simply smelling good. It was about transforming reality itself. Scholars still debate the precise knowledge ancient perfumers had regarding the long-term toxicity of certain botanical ingredients. Was their use purely for fragrance, or also for intended physiological effects, even if subconscious? The exact extent of accidental poisonings from mishandling these powerful botanicals in ancient workshops remains a subject of ongoing historical inquiry. It's hard to say how many unfortunate apprentices learned about mandrake's potent effects the hard way. Who needs Netflix when you have ancient perfumers experimenting with hallucinogenic plants? Bet those product development meetings were a real trip. This isn't to say that every ancient perfume was a ticking time bomb. Far from it. Most were likely composed of perfectly safe, albeit occasionally animal-derived ingredients. But the willingness to experiment with the volatile, the poisonous, and the mind-altering sets ancient perfumery apart. It demonstrates a profound belief in the power of scent, to do more than just please the nose, to heal, to enchant, to transform, and sometimes to destroy. The fragrant gardens of antiquity held not just beauty, but also danger. A silent promise of oblivion hidden within a captivating aroma. It makes you think twice about sniffing an unknown flower, doesn't it? You've navigated the wild side of ancient perfumery, from animal musk glands to the mysterious digestive tracts of whales, and even delved into the dangerously alluring world of poisonous plants. Now, prepare yourself for a journey beneath your very feet into the stony, silent depths of the earth. Because when plants and animals didn't quite cut it, ancient perfumers, in their relentless quest for captivating aromas and powerful unguents, turned to the mineral kingdom. And let me tell you, what they unearthed was often as strange, and sometimes as perilous, as anything we've encountered so far. Imagine you're standing in an ancient workshop, perhaps one tucked away in the dusty alleys of Memphis or along the rugged coasts of the Near East. The air is thick with the expected smells of oils and herbs, but beneath it, there's a subtle, almost geological odor. It's the scent of the earth itself, often raw, sometimes acrid, and surprisingly, a foundational element in some truly disturbing ancient fragrance recipes. These weren't typically perfumes that made you smell like a field of daisies. They were about creating specific effects, whether for ritual preservation or sheer unadulterated symbolic power. One of the most pervasive and perhaps universally disturbing in its raw form, mineral ingredients was bitumen, also known as asphaltum. You know, that sticky black tar-like substance used to pave roads today. Well, ancient civilizations, particularly in Mesopotamia and Egypt, knew it intimately. It seeped naturally from the earth in certain regions, often near oil deposits. In its raw form, bitumen has a heavy, distinctly tarry, smoky, almost sulfurous smell. Not exactly what you'd choose for a delicate personal fragrance. Right, But bitumen played a crucial role in ancient practices, notably in mummification for the Egyptians. It was used as a binding agent, a preservative, and to create the dark, impenetrable coating that protected the deceased now. While not a perfume in the traditional sense, its distinctive odor would have been omnipresent in rituals and preparations associated with the dead. More relevant to perfumery, bitumen was used in incense recipes, often combined with resins like frankincense or myrrh. The pungent, smoky aroma of burning bitumen would have created a heavy, almost oppressive atmosphere, believed to ward off evil spirits or signify a connection to the underworld. So, if your ancient neighbor smelled faintly of a freshly paved road, you knew they were either really into luxury or their house was just falling apart and probably needed some mummification. It wasn't about pleasantness. It was about power, protection, and a deep, resonant earthiness. Think about the context in a world where disease was rampant and death was a constant presence. Substances that seemed to defy decay or connect to powerful forces were highly valued. Bitumen, with its dark color and preserving qualities, fit perfectly into this worldview, making its way into balms and unguents that served both practical and ritualistic purposes. Another fascinating, albeit less directly fragrant, mineral used in proximity to ancient perfumery was natron. This naturally occurring mineral salt, found in dried lake beds primarily in Egypt, was the ultimate ancient cleaning and drying agent. Its primary use was in the mummification process, where it was packed around bodies to dehydrate them, preventing decay. You might wonder, how does this relate to perfume? Well, consider the broader spectrum of ancient beautification and preservation. While natron itself isn't a fragrance, its strong desiccant properties meant it was essential in preparing bodies, vessels, and even potentially ingredients before they were perfumed. It strips away moisture and organic matter, making a clean slate. Imagine the pungent alkaline smell of natron dust mixing with the sweet, heavy perfumes being prepared for the afterlife, a strange juxtaposition of chemical harshness and aromatic luxury. It underscores the utilitarian, sometimes disturbing foundation upon which ancient beauty rituals were built. Now, let's explore minerals that, while perhaps not mainstream perfume ingredients, certainly found their way into ancient beauty potions with decidedly disturbing effects. The arsenic-based minerals, orpiment and realgar. These are vibrant, eye-catching minerals. Orpiment is a brilliant yellow, and realgar is a striking red-orange. In ancient Rome and Greece, these minerals were highly prized as pigments for frescoes, paints, and even cosmetics, particularly for eye makeup and skin applications. You might find them ground into powders to create vivid eyeliners or blush. The disturbing part, both orpiment and realgar are highly toxic. They are arsenic sulfides. Ancient beauticians and their clients were essentially applying arsenic to their faces. The long-term effects would have been devastating, leading to chronic poisoning, skin lesions, and organ damage. It's a testament to how far ancient people would go for beauty, even if it meant risking their health or lives. You thought your skincare routine was complex? Imagine trying to find the perfect shade of yellow for your eyeliner, knowing it came from a rock that could literally kill you. Now that's dedication to beauty, or perhaps a terrifying lack of understanding. This brings us back to the blurred lines we've discussed. Was it an ingredient in a perfume or a cosmetic? The distinction was often less clear in ancient times, with fragrant oils mixed into colored pastes for holistic beautification. Another mineral that often had a presence in ritualistic scents was sulfur. If you've ever smelled a rotten egg, you know the distinct, acrid odor of hydrogen sulfide, While elemental sulfur doesn't always have that strong a smell until burnt, its association with the underworld and purification rituals made it significant. Sulfur was used in ancient fumigation to purify spaces, drive out evil spirits, and even for certain medicinal applications. Burning sulfur produces a choking, pungent smoke. Imagine a temple ritual where fragrant incense billows alongside the harsh, almost burning aroma of sulfur, creating a powerful, sensory experience. It wasn't about making things smell good in a modern sense, but about invoking a specific, often potent or terrifying atmosphere. Scholars continue to decipher whether certain mineral inclusions in ancient cosmetic and perfumed balms were purely for aesthetic or binding properties, or if they were believed to impart subtle mystical effects. The full extent of health risks faced by ancient perfumers and apothecaries handling these toxic minerals remains a subject of ongoing debate among historical toxicologists. It's difficult to gauge how many short-lived beauticians succumbed to the very ingredients they applied so meticulously. Beyond these more notorious examples, other earthy materials found their way into ancient unguents and incenses. Various types of clays and ochres, for instance, while not inherently disturbing, often had distinct earthy aromas and were used as bases for perfumed body paints or as absorbents in cosmetic powders. These natural pigments often carried the raw, unrefined scent of the earth, providing a grounding, almost primal undertone to whatever other fragrances were added. So, the next time you think of natural ingredients, remember that, for ancient perfumers, natural could mean digging up substances that were heavy, pungent, and potentially deadly. The earth, in its generosity, provided not just the beautiful flowers and sturdy trees, but also the tarry bitumen, the drying natron, and the shockingly colorful, yet lethal, arsenic minerals. These minerals, often handled with a profound lack of understanding regarding their toxic properties, were nonetheless integral to the ancient world's pursuit of scent, beauty, and ritualistic power. They are a stark reminder that the quest for allure in ancient times often involved literally reaching into the very ground beneath their feet and pulling out something profoundly unsettling. Turns out, getting back to nature for ancient perfumers involved digging up things that could melt your face off. Good times. You've plunged into the murky origins of scent, from the musky depths of animal glands to the mysterious oceanic offerings, and even the beautiful but deadly secrets of the plant world. Now, as you drift further into the ancient perfumer's domain, prepare for the unsung and often stomach-churning heroes of longevity, the fixatives, because while ancient artisans could conjure up the most exquisite fragrances from blossoms and resins, these delicate aromas, like all good things, would quickly fade without something to anchor them, to hold them close to the skin. And what they chose for this crucial role was often anything but glamorous. Imagine the frustration. You've spent weeks, perhaps months, carefully extracting the essence of 1,000 roses, or coaxing a precious oil from a rare spice. You apply it, and for a glorious few moments, you are enveloped in pure olfactory bliss. But then, almost as quickly as it arrived, the scent vanishes, leaving behind only a faint whisper. This was the perpetual challenge for ancient perfumers. They needed something that would latch onto those volatile fragrance molecules, something that wouldn't evaporate easily, and something that, ideally, wouldn't overpower the delicate notes they wanted to preserve. Their solution, often, it involved some truly repulsive materials and methods. One of the most common, and perhaps most visually unsettling, fixatives was animal fat. Yes, we're talking about rendered tallow, lard, or grease, often sourced from sheep, cows, pigs, and sometimes even more exotic creatures. Think about the sheer volume of fat needed, especially for the popular perfumed unguents and pomades. Picture large clay pots simmering over fires, filled with raw animal fat. The smell alone during the rendering process, the melting, clarifying, and straining, would have been incredibly pungent and undeniably foul. It was a far cry from the pleasant laboratory environment of today. The primary goal was to make this fat as odorless as possible, so it wouldn't interfere with the delicate perfumes it was meant to hold. This involved repeated washing, heating, and filtering, often with ash or other alkaline substances. You can almost imagine the ancient perfumer diligently stirring a bubbling cauldron of animal fat, trying to skim off impurities, all while holding their breath. This painstaking process, designed to purify a fundamentally unappetizing raw material, highlights the sheer determination of these artisans. This is a common historical fact. Animal fats were fundamental to ancient perfumery, especially for thick, lasting balms. Remember our crocodile dung sunscreen. That same willingness to use seemingly gross things for function extended deeply into ancient cosmetic and scent production. Now, while the aim was for odorless fat, sometimes a faint, earthy, or animalic undertone would persist. This residual scent, combined with the pure fragrance, could inadvertently create complex, deeper notes. So, in a way, the foul origin of the fixative might have subtly contributed to the final aroma, adding a layer of hidden complexity that modern perfumers now try to replicate with synthetic animalic notes. It's almost ironic, isn't it? The very thing they tried to remove sometimes became an intrinsic part of the scent's character. Beyond animal fats, certain resins and gums, which you might think of as sources of fragrance themselves, also served as powerful, if sometimes pungent, fixatives. Take galbanum, for instance. This resin, derived from certain plants in the parsley family, has a powerful, green, slightly bitter, and often intensely earthy or rooty aroma. In its concentrated form, it can be quite overwhelming, almost sulfuric, and certainly not something you'd want to douse yourself in directly. Yet, in minute quantities, it has a remarkable ability to provide a green lift and, crucially, to fix lighter floral notes, helping them cling to the skin for hours. Its raw, unprocessed smell would have been a significant presence in any ancient perfumer's workspace. Or consider asafoetida, often called devil's dung, due to its incredibly pungent, garlic-like, or even fecal odor. While primarily used as a spice and medicine, there's evidence it may have been employed in incredibly small, almost undetectable quantities in some ancient incense or aromatic preparations where its powerful fixative properties and strong initial scent could be controlled. If you thought your kitchen smelled bad after cooking with garlic, imagine working with a concentrated resin nicknamed devil's dung. It truly makes you appreciate modern air filtration systems. The underlying principle here is that many of these fixatives, in their raw or concentrated forms, carried strong, sometimes offensive odors. Their magic lay in their transformation through dilution and blending, where their overwhelming initial presence was tamed, allowing their subtle, fixative power to shine. Scholars still question the extent to which certain foul notes in ancient perfumes were deliberate artistic choices versus unavoidable byproducts of the available fixatives. Was that musky undertone a calculated addition, or simply the unavoidable ghost of the animal fat it was blended with? One fascinating, unique, and lesser-known detail is the meticulous process of enfleurage used in some ancient perfumery and refined much later. This involved spreading pure, odorless animal fat onto glass plates or linen sheets, and then pressing fresh flowers into the fat, allowing the fat to absorb the delicate floral scent. This process would be repeated with fresh flowers for days or weeks until the fat was fully saturated with fragrance. The very first step, making sure the animal fat was truly odorless, was a massive, challenging, and often foul-smelling undertaking. Imagine the meticulous, repetitive work of rendering and purifying huge batches of animal fat, only for it to then slowly absorb the scent of delicate blossoms. The initial stench, followed by the gradual infusion of beauty, is a powerful metaphor for the ancient perfumer's craft. The full extent of the health risks faced by ancient perfumers and apothecaries handling these often pungent and sometimes unsanitary raw materials remains a subject of ongoing debate among historical toxicologists and chemists. The fumes, the odors, the potential for bacterial contamination. Their daily lives were certainly not a walk through a rose garden. They worked with what they had, and what they had often included materials that would make a modern chemist wince. So, the next time you spritz on a perfume that lingers beautifully throughout the day, take a moment to appreciate the journey of fragrance through history. It's a journey that often involved the unglamorous, the arduous, and the truly stomach-churning, the unsung heroes of longevity. These foul fixatives ensured that the ephemeral beauty of scent could endure, making ancient perfumes not just pleasant, but truly lasting works of art, albeit art built on a foundation of, well, sometimes truly unpleasant substances. It just goes to show, beauty really is in the eye or nose of the beholder. And sometimes, the beholder had a remarkably strong stomach. You've journeyed through the unsettling origins of ancient perfumes, from the secretions of land animals and whales to the hidden dangers of botanicals and the raw power of minerals. But perfume in the ancient world was rarely just about personal allure. Far from it. Scent was a profound force, deeply intertwined with the spiritual, the sacred, and often the decidedly macabre. Tonight, we unearth perfume's sacrificial side, where captivating aromas mingled with unsettling rites, acting as a bridge between the mortal realm and the unseen world of gods, spirits, and ancestors. Imagine yourself in the heart of an ancient temple, perhaps in Egypt or Mesopotamia. The air is thick, almost palpable, with the heavy, sweet, and smoky scent of incense. Coils of fragrant smoke unfurl towards the heavens, carrying prayers, offerings, and the very essence of human devotion. This isn't just a pleasant smell, it's a living entity, a sacred messenger. Frankincense and myrrh, those classic biblical aromas, were ubiquitous, their rich, balsamic notes filling vast, sacred spaces. But alongside them, less glamorous and sometimes more disturbing elements were burned. Think of resins with sharp, acrid notes, or even forms of bitumen. Remember our tar-like mineral from the last chapter mixed in, creating a powerful, almost oppressive olfactory presence. The act of burning these aromatic compounds was a fundamental ritual. It transformed solid matter into ephemeral smoke, a visible representation of offerings ascending to the deities. The scent itself became an offering, a means of appeasing the gods, purifying spaces, and inviting divine presence. So, if you ever got invited to an ancient temple party, just know that what smelled like spiritual cleansing might also have been masking the after effects of a, shall we say, robust sacrifice. They really knew how to set the mood, even if the mood involved a lot of smoke and, well, let's just say, strong background notes. Beyond incense, anointing oils held immense spiritual significance. Kings were anointed, priests consecrated, and sacred objects purified with luxurious, potent perfumes. These weren't just about making things smell nice. They were about infusing them with divine power, marking them as sacred and set apart. You might be witnessing a pharaoh being bathed in rich oils infused with lotus, lily, and perhaps even a hint of civet, preparing him not just for his day, but for his divine duties. But perhaps the most chilling intersection of perfume and ritual occurred in funerary practices. Think about mummification in ancient Egypt. This wasn't just about preserving a body. It was a complex, highly ritualized process designed to ensure the deceased's journey to the afterlife, and perfumes were absolutely central to it. Lavish quantities of fragrant oils, resins, and balms were applied to the body, often mixed with preserving agents like natron, our drying mineral friend from the previous chapter, and even bitumen. These mortuary perfumes served multiple purposes to mask the inevitable odors of decay during the long process, to cleanse and purify the body, and perhaps most importantly, to spiritually transform the deceased, making them acceptable to the gods. Imagine the atmosphere in a mortuary workshop, the metallic tang of blood and bodily fluids mixing with the dry, alkaline dust of natron, overlaid with the heavy, sweet, and often animalic notes of rich resins and perfumed oils. It's a sensory experience that pushes the boundaries of what we consider fragrant. The unique and lesser-known detail here lies in the very specific and intricate recipes for these mortuary perfumes, sometimes detailed in ancient texts, indicating a highly ritualized scent practice focused entirely on the afterlife, creating what you might call eau de mummy. It was less about fashion and more about trying to keep things from getting too aromatic in the afterlife, practical, if a little morbid. Wouldn't you agree? This leads us to the more visceral and truly disturbing side of ancient ritual sacrifice. While direct blood as a perfume ingredient is incredibly rare, the overwhelming smell of blood was a pervasive reality in many ancient religious rites, whether animal or, in some cultures, human. In such contexts, powerful perfumes and incenses played a crucial role. They weren't just for pleasing the gods. They were for masking the visceral, unsettling odors of death and sacrifice, or perhaps for creating a transcendent atmosphere that elevated the gruesome act into something holy. Consider the massive sacrificial complexes of the Mesoamericans, where incense burners, often filled with fragrant copal resin, were omnipresent. The thick, sweet smoke would have billowed around altars where human sacrifices were performed, creating a fragrant veil over the raw reality of death. The perfume wasn't a separate entity. It was an integral part of the ritual, helping to purify the air, carry prayers, and perhaps even to induce a trance-like state in participants, allowing them to witness the macabre acts as sacred offerings rather than gruesome violence. It's a chilling thought, beauty and horror, intricately intertwined through scent. Furthermore, remember our discussion of poisonous plants like mandrake and opium poppy. These weren't confined to personal use. Many ancient mystery cults and spiritual practices incorporated psychoactive plants, often in the form of fragrant smokes or infused oils, to induce trances, visions, or altered states of consciousness. The perfume of oblivion wasn't just a metaphor. It was a very real and potentially dangerous experience. A priestess might inhale a fragrant smoke that was subtly toxic, drawing her closer to the divine while risking her very life. The precise role of these psychoactive fragrant compounds in ancient mystery cults remains a topic of scholarly conjecture due to limited textual evidence. But the tantalizing hints suggest a deeply unsettling connection between scent, spirituality, and altered perception. The lines between perfume, medicine, and magic were constantly blurred in the ancient world. A fragrant balm could be anointing oil, a medicinal salve, and a magical charm all at once. The rags in our chapter title, symbolic of the remnants and tools of ritual, would have been saturated with these complex, multi-purpose scents, carrying the faint echoes of prayer, purification, and sacrifice, Archaeologists still debate the primary intent behind the lavish use of perfumes in funerary rites. Was it primarily for masking decay, for spiritual protection, or for symbolic transformation of the deceased? It was likely all of these, demonstrating the profound and multifaceted role that scent played in ancient societies, extending far beyond simple vanity. From the breath of the gods to the eternal sleep of the dead, perfume was a powerful, tangible link to the unseen world, often carrying with it the unsettling aroma of ritual and sacrifice. It truly gives you a new perspective on those seemingly pleasant, ancient incense burners, doesn't it? You felt the deep, resonant connection between ancient scents and sacred rituals, delving into the role of fragrance in appeasing gods and preparing the dead. But now, let's pull back the curtain on the very creation of these captivating and often disturbing aromas. We're stepping into the ancient equivalent of a chemistry lab, a place where perfumers were not just artisans, but proto-chemists, experimentalists, and, often, unwitting risk-takers. This is the realm of the alchemist's aroma, dangerous distillations, where ingenuity mingled with folly, and the pursuit of fragrant perfection sometimes came at a perilous cost. Imagine yourself inside an ancient perfumery, far removed from the romanticized image of delicate flower petals. Instead, picture a dimly lit, often poorly ventilated space. The air is thick, not just with pleasant floral notes, but with the pungent tang of boiling fats. Remember those foul fixatives, the acrid bite of certain resins, and perhaps the faint, unsettling whiff of something truly dangerous. Primitive clay and copper vessels bubble over open flames. Crude filters hang dripping, and the air shimmers with heat and vapor. This was a workplace where safety protocols were non-existent, and every fragrant creation was a potential experiment in unintended consequences. The most revolutionary, yet potentially hazardous technique for extracting pure essences was distillation. While earlier methods like maceration, soaking fragrant materials in heated oils or fats, and enfleurage, absorbing scents into cold fats, had their own challenges. Think of the sheer labor and the need to constantly purify those animal fats we discussed. Distillation introduced a whole new level of danger. This common historical fact, the development of distillation, often attributed to various ancient cultures and later significantly advanced by Islamic scholars, was a game changer. It allowed for the separation of highly concentrated essential oils from plant materials, providing a purity and potency previously unimaginable. But here's the rub: ancient stills, known as alembics, were rudimentary. They were often made of unlined copper or even lead. Imagine heating large quantities of water and plant matter in a metal pot over a roaring fire. The steam would rise, carrying the volatile aromatic compounds, then pass through a coiled pipe, often submerged in a cooling bath of cold water, where it would condense back into liquid. This liquid, the essential oil and fragrant water, hydrosol, would then be collected. Sounds simple enough, right? Except for a few rather important details. Firstly, fire and explosion were constant threats. Many of the plant materials themselves, and certainly the resulting essential oils, were highly flammable. Working with open flames in close proximity to vats of boiling plant matter and collecting highly concentrated, volatile oils was an invitation to disaster. One wrong move, one overheated pot, and a perfumery could become an inferno in moments. You know, they say you gotta suffer for your art, and ancient perfumers certainly took that to heart. I bet their workplace safety posters were just a skull and crossbones, and a note saying, "Don't die, today." Secondly, and perhaps more insidiously, were the toxic fumes. Recall our journey through poisonous plants in Chapter 4, mandrake, belladonna, opium poppy. While not all plants used in distillation were deadly, imagine boiling down large quantities of certain botanicals. Heating them could release dangerous vapors, especially if the perfumer didn't fully understand the chemical composition. Cyanide compounds from certain seeds, or potent alkaloids from roots, could turn a seemingly fragrant vapor into a lung irritant or worse. The air in these workshops was a chemical cocktail, and the perfumer, inhaling it day in and day out, was unknowingly subjecting themselves to chronic poisoning. This leads us to a unique and lesser-known detail of the perfumer's own health: the constant exposure to fumes, heat, and sometimes the byproducts of toxic materials likely had significant long-term health consequences. Headaches, respiratory issues, skin irritations, and organ damage would have been common ailments among these artisans. They were, in essence, sacrificing their health for their craft, turning highly concentrated natural essences into desirable perfumes while their bodies bore the brunt of the hazardous conditions. If you ever walked into an ancient perfume shop and saw the perfumer wearing a strange shade of green, you knew it wasn't just a fashion choice, probably a bad batch of everything. Adding another layer of danger, early stills were often made of materials like lead or unlined copper. When acidic essential oils or water vapor passed through these metals, they could leach toxic heavy metals directly into the final product. So, the luxurious perfumed oil that graced the skin of a Roman noblewoman might have contained trace amounts of lead or copper, unknowingly contributing to long-term health problems for the wearer. The beautiful fragrance carried with it an invisible, insidious danger. The alchemist's folly comes into play here. Ancient perfumers were akin to alchemists, constantly experimenting, pushing the boundaries of what they knew without the benefit of modern scientific understanding. They operated on observation, tradition, and often pure trial and error. This meant that unexpected and potentially dangerous reactions could occur. Accidental fermentations, incomplete distillations, or unexpected byproducts could yield compounds with unpredictable effects. Who needs a smoke alarm when your entire workshop smells like a burning forest, a hint of something suspiciously metallic, and a dash of eau de poison? Even the seemingly innocuous hydrosols, the fragrant waters left behind after essential oil distillation, could be hazardous. While many are safe and used today like rose water or lavender water, if a toxic plant was distilled, even the water could contain trace amounts of harmful compounds and the leftover residues in the stills. These sludges could be highly concentrated waste, toxic and difficult to dispose of safely, perhaps simply dumped into local waterways, affecting the environment around the perfumery. Scholars, or historical chemists, still debate the exact composition of some ancient essential oils and hydrosols, and the precise levels of toxic impurities present due to primitive distillation methods. It's challenging to reconstruct the exact chemical environment of these ancient workshops, making it difficult to fully assess the risks. Similarly, scholars continue to analyze whether the short lifespans or specific ailments recorded for ancient artisans were directly linked to their exposure to hazardous materials in their workshops, a silent testament to the dangers of their pioneering craft. So, the next time you admire a beautiful, handcrafted perfume, take a moment to reflect on the ancient pioneers who laid the groundwork. Their ingenuity was immense, but their methods were often fraught with peril. The alluring aroma you enjoy today is the culmination of centuries of experimentation, much of it conducted in conditions that would make a modern chemist shudder. The very air in those ancient workshops, filled with fragrant vapors and unseen dangers, was a testament to humanity's relentless pursuit of beauty, even when it meant breathing the dangerous aroma of their own alchemical ingenuity. You've braved the hazardous alchemy of ancient perfume workshops. peering into the bubbling cauldrons and breathing the potentially toxic fumes. Now, as we approach the twilight of our journey, let's turn to a different kind of disturbance, the societal forces that shaped who could smell good and how good they were allowed to smell. Because in the ancient world, perfume wasn't just a personal choice, it was a powerful statement of wealth, status, and power, often leading to forbidden fragrances, secret scents, and even outright laws dictating who could wear what. Imagine yourself strolling through the opulent streets of ancient Rome, or perhaps the refined courts of an Egyptian pharaoh. The air is alive with a symphony of scents, some delicate and floral, others heavy and resinous. But as you observe, you'll notice something subtle. Certain aromas seem to cling only to the most powerful, the most privileged. This wasn't by accident. For many ancient societies, scent was a highly regulated commodity, subject to social norms, economic barriers, and sometimes even sumptuary laws. Sumptuary laws, a common historical fact across many ancient civilizations, were essentially legal restrictions on consumption. They dictated what people could wear, eat, and display, all in an effort to maintain clear social hierarchies and curb excessive luxury, especially among those not deemed worthy of such display. And yes, this included perfumes. In the Roman Republic, for instance, there were attempts to restrict extravagant displays of wealth. And while direct laws on specific perfumes were hard to enforce, the spirit of these laws certainly discouraged common citizens from indulging in the lavish, rare scents favored by the elite. Imagine trying to enforce that, "Excuse me, madam, is that a hint of illegal civet I detect on your toga? You're under arrest." The thought of a scent police patrolling the streets is almost comical, but the underlying social pressure was very real. The primary way fragrances became forbidden or exclusive was simply through their cost and rarity. Think back to our journey, the elusive musk deer, the unpredictable ambergris from whale guts, the incredibly rare resins sourced from distant lands. These ingredients were not only difficult and often disturbing to procure, but they were also incredibly expensive. Only the wealthiest could afford them, creating a natural barrier that restricted their use to the elite. Pharaohs, emperors, high priests, and the most powerful nobles essentially had a monopoly on these high-status scents. Their very scent became a symbol of their divine right or immense power. Beyond inherent rarity, some rulers or powerful families actively controlled the production and trade of certain fragrant materials, turning them into royal monopolies. This meant that specific perfumeries might be exclusively dedicated to supplying the court, their secret recipes closely guarded. The knowledge itself, the precise ratios of ingredients, the methods of distillation, which we know could be dangerous, and the sources of the rarest components, became secret scents, passed down through exclusive guilds or within families. For the common person, understanding how these exquisite perfumes were made, let alone obtaining them, was a form of forbidden knowledge. This control of supply and knowledge naturally led to a fascinating, if sometimes illicit, underworld of perfumery. If certain luxurious scents were restricted, it inevitably spurred a market for counterfeit perfumes, or attempts to create similar effects with cheaper, perhaps even more dubious, substitutes. Imagine trying to mimic the complex, animalic warmth of real ambergris with something more readily available, and potentially less appealing or even more disturbing in its origin. The risk of making or selling these illegal scents would have been high, but so too were the potential profits. This makes you wonder about the precise methods employed by these ancient counterfeiters. Perhaps a less scrupulous perfumer might add even more questionable, cheaper animal byproducts, creating a truly foul, forbidden scent. One unique and lesser-known detail about this period is not just the existence of laws, but the moral and philosophical condemnations of excessive perfume use. While not a legal ban, certain philosophical schools like the Stoics in Greece and Rome, and later early Christian communities, viewed lavish perfume use as a sign of vanity, decadence, and moral corruption. For women especially, being overly perfumed could signal loose morals or an abandonment of traditional virtues. This created a different kind of forbidden status, a social stigma that could be just as powerful as a legal decree. Wearing too much perfume, or the wrong kind of perfume, could brand you as morally suspect, even if you could afford it. It really puts modern exclusive fragrances into perspective, doesn't it? Back then, limited edition often meant we might literally throw you in jail if you're not a senator, or at least frown very disapprovingly at your scented presence. Consider Cleopatra, a master of political theater. Her legendary use of perfumes, not just for personal adornment, but as a political tool, highlights this power dynamic. She famously had the sails of her ships drenched in exquisite scents to announce her arrival, creating an overpowering olfactory statement that preceded her. This wasn't just about smelling nice. It was about projecting an image of unimaginable wealth, power, and divine favor. Her scents were forbidden to almost everyone else, precisely because they were integral to her persona as a queen and a goddess. Scholars still debate the actual effectiveness of sumptuary laws in ancient societies, particularly regarding something as personal and easily concealed as perfume. How could you truly regulate what someone wore on their skin, the extent to which illicit perfume trade flourished, and what specific forbidden ingredients were sought by those defying the norms, remains largely speculative due to limited direct evidence. Most of what we know comes from the writings of the elite, who were usually the ones setting and often breaking these rules. So, as you breathe in the subtle, lingering traces of these ancient stories, remember that perfume has always been more than just a pleasant aroma. It has been a symbol of status, a tool of power, a closely guarded secret, and sometimes a defiant act against social constraints. The idea of a forbidden fragrance adds a thrilling, if slightly disturbing, layer to its history, a reminder that even the pursuit of beauty can reveal the complexities of human society, its rules, its rebels, and its enduring desire for allure, no matter the cost or the social decree. So, if you were a Roman citizen trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses suddenly smelled like exotic whale barf, you knew you had to get your hands on some forbidden ambergris. Priorities. You've plunged headfirst into the fascinating, often unsettling world of ancient perfumes, exploring everything from raw animal secretions and mysterious ocean offerings to toxic botanicals and hazardous mineral extractions. You've seen the dangers lurking in the ancient workshop and the social control exerted through scent. Now, as our journey nears its end, let's reflect on the echoes of eternity, the lasting impact of these disturbing ingredients on modern perfumery and our enduring, almost primal, fascination with scent itself. Imagine fast-forwarding thousands of years from those ancient workshops to a gleaming, sterile modern perfumery lab. No more bubbling cauldrons of animal fat, no more grinding toxic minerals, and certainly no more scraping secretions from caged civets. Today, the landscape of fragrance creation has been utterly transformed by scientific advancement and, crucially, by a much greater understanding of ethics and safety. One of the most significant shifts, a common historical fact, is the development of synthetic alternatives. The musks, civets, and ambergris of today are almost exclusively laboratory-created molecules. Scientists have meticulously analyzed the chemical structures of these natural, yet often brutally sourced ingredients and learned to replicate their complex scent profiles. This revolution in chemistry not only made these animalic notes widely accessible, but, more importantly, put a much-needed end to the cruel practices of hunting musk deer or caging civets. So, the next time you smell a perfume that makes you think, wow, that's deeply sensual and a little bit wild, just remember it might be the ghost of a civet cat or a well-aged whale product, lovingly recreated in a lab. Progress. This shift highlights a fascinating paradox in modern consumer culture, the desire for natural ingredients. Many people today seek out perfumes and cosmetics advertised as all natural, often without realizing the disturbing origins or ethical implications of truly natural sourcing, especially in historical contexts. The irony is that in perfumery, sometimes the synthetic is ethically superior to the natural, offering the same beloved aroma without the historical baggage of animal cruelty, environmental impact, or the direct handling of toxic substances. It truly makes you appreciate your local Sephora, where the biggest danger is usually just impulse buying, not poisoning. Despite the shift to synthetics, there's an enduring fascination with these complex, often challenging notes. Modern perfumers still rely on what they call the animalic accord. Indolic notes the slightly fecal smell found in high concentrations of some beautiful flowers like jasmine or orange blossom, or deep, earthy, and leathery notes. These are the echoes of those ancient, disturbing ingredients. When used skillfully, these notes add incredible depth, warmth, and sensuality to a fragrance. They prevent a perfume from being merely pretty, grounding it with a hint of something primal, something profoundly human and alive. It's the olfactory ghost of history, reminding us of our ancient desires and the lengths to which we once went to satisfy them. The human brain, it seems, is still wired to appreciate these nuanced, sometimes even unsettling, aromas. The psychological appeal of animalic notes, even in their synthetic forms, remains a topic of interdisciplinary debate, touching on evolutionary biology and cultural conditioning. Why are we still drawn to smells that, in their raw state, might make us recoil? Perhaps it's a deep-seated connection to our own biological origins, a subconscious recognition of life itself, or simply the sheer complexity and mystery these notes impart. This enduring fascination has also sparked incredible efforts in ancient perfume recreation. This is a unique and lesser-known detail. Archaeochemists, historians, and perfumers are working together to analyze residues found in ancient amphorae, interpret fragmented recipes from papyri, and even recreate scents based on artistic depictions from tombs and temples. It's a challenging endeavor, as precise recipes are rare. Ancient materials have degraded, and sourcing exact ancient botanicals or animals is impossible. However, these projects offer tantalizing glimpses into the olfactory world of antiquity, allowing us to literally smell history, even if some of those historical smells might make us wrinkle our noses. Archaeochemical studies continue to refine our understanding of ancient perfume compositions, leading to ongoing scholarly debates about the precise olfactory experience of these historical fragrances. Looking back, the story of ancient perfumes is a testament to humanity's boundless ingenuity and, at times, considerable folly. Those early perfumers, operating without modern chemistry or safety standards, experimented with whatever nature offered, no matter how disturbing. They pushed boundaries, sometimes at great personal risk, to create scents that served purposes far beyond mere adornment, for ritual, for medicine, for status, and even as a means of control. They literally risked life and limb to create alluring aromas. Turns out, modern perfumers are basically just fancy chemists trying to make things smell like whale barf and deer glands, but in a way that won't get them arrested by the scent police or cause an allergic reaction. What a job. The sheer resourcefulness required to extract, purify, and blend such diverse and often raw ingredients into coveted fragrances is awe-inspiring. Their world was one of intense sensory experiences, where the lines between beauty and danger, pleasure and discomfort, were often blurred. The scent of a high-status individual might carry the delicate sweetness of florals, underpinned by the potent, deep musk of animal glands or the rich, earthy notes of rare, difficult-to-handle resins. So, as you slowly drift into slumber, let the final lingering notes of this historical journey settle around you. The world of ancient perfumes was a wild, often disturbing, but ultimately captivating place. It reminds us that our quest for beauty and sensory delight is ancient, deeply ingrained, and has often led humanity down the most unexpected and, yes, unsettling paths. The next time you encounter a complex fragrance, take a moment to appreciate the centuries of human endeavor, experimentation, and perhaps even a touch of danger that went into its creation. It's a truly rich and fragrant legacy, even if some of its ingredients might still give you pause. It's time to wrap up this journey of scents and curiosities. Hopefully you've discovered more about the ancient world of perfumery, a world where seduction often goes hand in hand with surprising and sometimes terrifying ingredients. Now, the images of musk deer, civets, or lumps of ambergris floating on the sea will slowly fade from your mind. Let these stories gently lull you into a deep sleep, where the sense of the past will be just a hazy memory, no longer a cause for concern. Good night.